Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk a bunch of animated shows and movies here with new podcasts every other Wednesday. Find everything about us at overlyanimated.com. I'm your host, Dylan Hysen, and today I'm joined by Delaney Stovall.
Hey, y'all.
And Michelle Anderer.
Hello.
We are back talking The Owl House during the off-season between seasons 1 and 2 here. This is the Eda podcast, all about Eda here on our Owl House discussion. Specifically, we'll be speculating about many aspects of Eda as a character that could be addressed by the show in the future. But also talking about why we love Eda, why Eda is a great character. So everything about Eda here as we continue to await for season 2 of the Owl House. Check out, like I said, overlyanimated.com for our other Owl House discussions and other podcasts. But that's it. We're at no beginning segment. We're going to go right into talking about Eda. And I think first question. Oh, and I want to say apologies for any background noise you're hearing. Not sure what's going to make it in, but hopefully it sounds good. Eda deserves the best sound quality, so we hope
That's
so.
That's right.
Yeah. The first question here is what do you love about Eda? And we have two big Eda stans joining me here, so I'd like to know, what's maybe the number one reason you think you love Eda after this first season, Delaney?
She's hot.
Wow. Okay.
I'm not wrong.
That, but
I'm not
I
lying.
see it.
You weren't expecting that?
No, as the number one reason.
Yeah, is that actually the number one reason?
It's ladies entitled to her reason.
Ida's just such a different character. Like, I find it hard to even, think of another character like Eda. So I think that's part of, she's such a standout character. I mean, the only character I could maybe think of that's, similar in, her role and kind of, I don't know, how quirky she is would be, Uncle Iroh. But even then, they're too, they're there. But, I don't know, Ida's just so special. And she's just so funny. I just don't think I was ever expecting a show to come out with a character like Eda, and for her to be one of the main characters, and you're like, what am I watching?
Yeah, I feel like you have a history of liking, middle-aged or older female characters, such as Lynn from Legend of Korra. Yeah,
Lynn. Yeah. It's true, I do. And they were like, "Here, she's a witch," and I was like, "Oh man, why are they checking all my boxes today? Why they gotta do that to me?"
Yeah, and like you said, Eda, more of a main character than we typically see, characters like Lynn. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And we'll get into some other reasons. But Michelle, what about you? What stands out as your number one reason for loving Eda?
Her age and that she's single and weird, and that adds to the
weird, that's it.
Feel. Yeah, she's really weird. But she's also very powerful, and the fact that she kind of exists on the fringes of her society is something that I feel like the show kind of wants to explore a lot, which is probably because she's in the main cast, she's one of the main characters, so it makes sense that they would. But yeah, it's such an attractive yet rare combination just to have this single lady who, she dates around, but she lives in a nest in she loves human garbage. It's her
she's
thing.
An owl.
But she's also, she's like an owl. She's the owl version of a cat lady. And I think that's very freeing in a way. And she's really funny and she's really smart, but she's also she doesn't take life super seriously. And yet she is competent enough to navigate it pretty well when she needs to. And I think that's such a winning combination, and it's very attractive. And I don't know, Eda makes it seem like aging gracefully into singledom into your 30s and 40s isn't a terrible thing, maybe. And I like that for people. I think everyone should have that's an option. I think she's great, though.
You can be single, or you can be a crazy owl lady.
Or you can be both. She's all those things.
Is Eda an owl lady because she turns into an owl and I guess has Albert, or is she a demon lady because she has King as her cat?
Can the answer be yes?
I mean, she's it all though. She's the total package. She has the demon and the owl.
Look, sometimes family is a crazy owl lady and her demon dog and a lost child.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess Luz does fit the cat lady theme because she brought in a cat child.
Super gay disaster girlfriend.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, and her sister now.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's. I will say. I will default to Delaney and Michelle's Eda standum here. I think I'm less of the Eda stan, but I do want to point out, as we have several great aspects listed here of Eda to go over. Probably the one that stands out to me in terms of like compared to other shows we talk about is kind of like her role as a not like you want to say older, but it is relative to like usually like children that are on these types of shows we talk about, like kid shows especially. Her role in not just being a mentor or relative to the main character, right? Like I think that's kind of like what stands out to me about Eda is the show really purposely wants to give her own plot lines and her own roles in the show. She doesn't really just exist relative to Luz, which I think is not something you really ever see for like quote unquote older women in shows like this, or honestly even on normal like quote unquote normal TV shows and movies. Like a lot of times women aren't given roles like this past their 20s, and so
that is true.
So I think it's a big breath of fresh air to see Eda really as a secondary main character and one who's given her own plot lines kind of consistently throughout season 1.
Like she's not the role that's typically assigned, but like so it's like she is a mentor, but then she's also her own character in her own right. And even regardless of her like I mean, yes, it's very important that she's a woman and like these characters don't exist, but like even independent of her being a woman, like characters like Eda don't get the agency that Eda gets or the storylines that Eda gets. Like Eda's actually a character.
Yeah, and we can dive into this more, getting into some specifics more on these details. But yeah, I agree. Also, older men typically don't get that type of thing, but it's more likely. Certainly, I think we could talk about similar characters, quote unquote, similar characters to Eda, maybe within the Disney realm, because I think kind of a lot of recent Disney shows have their own. Middle-aged or older character. I think the easiest one, as Delaney noted, as Delaney helps with a lot of these outline aspects, by the way, so might default her on some of these things, but Queen Moon in Star vs. Force of Evil. I think I feel like when I think of Queen Moon's role on the show, she develops her own stories later in Star. Like I do think there are some episodes where it's like just her doing her own thing. Also, Eclipsa gets her own stories later. So I do think like Star eventually gets to this point where it's giving those two women stories that are independent of Star and the main character. I think what's different with Eda is like we start there with her. I feel like season 1 we're just going right to that with Eda.
Well, with Queen Moon, we kind of go full circle. Like, she's just kind of like, I mean, literally the first season, she's just on the phone. Queen Moon's not a character, and then she starts to get her own stories. But then it also circles back to it's all about Star. So like.
Yeah, that was the thing I was thinking of. I feel like Eda's a lot more similar to like a Grunkle Stan because. She's a very reluctant like parental force in Luz's life, I think in a way similar to Grunkle Stan initially, and they both kind of have this scenario where children enter their lives unexpectedly and start to leave an impression on them that is unintended, and from that they also learn and grow as people. But it's pretty much the opposite of just like being someone's mom, where your first like role and expectation is to be like that parental force for your kid, and then maybe you have a life outside of that and get to go off and do cool things like Queen Moon, but it mainly centers back on your child or child surrogate, which is like kind of the opposite for Eden. I think that's part of what's exciting about her. Like she's definitely, Luz has left such an impression on her and changed her a lot. But we start with Eda just kind of doing her own thing constantly, which is already kind of exciting and different.
Yeah, and what I mean by kind of own stories relative, not relative to the main character. So, for example, like the Grudgeby episode, she plays Lilith, and it's kind of a separate plot line. There's the one plot line where her and Lilith go out on this quest to find this thing. I think it's in the book episode or something. Yeah. Like there's just episodes where she has her own whole plot line. And I think Grunkle Stan was definitely the next one I was going to go to here. And I think there's a lot of similarities with the older sibling relationship. And yeah, I think like a lot of personality traits, maybe relative to the main character in common.
Being crusty.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. But I do think Eda already feels a little bit more of an established, separate character than Grunkle Stan was throughout Gravity Falls.
Yeah, that's true, because we spend like half the time with her, whereas with Gravity Falls, we spend like most of the time with both of the twins. So our attention's a little more divided there. I think it's a little more equally split with this show.
Yeah, I think so. And last one was Hot Pop in Amphibia.
Yeah, but like he's a grandpa first, right? So he follows that thing where it's like he has maybe some stuff going on his own, but that's very much in the background of just being the grandpa for all of his children.
Yeah, right. Like I think that's the difference. Like Eda is the mentor, but that's almost secondary to her just being her own presence on the show, whereas it's usually the opposite. So that's like pretty novel for these types of shows. Question is, I've often been frustrated by this aspect, and I think reframing it for looking at Eda like this has helped me. But I'm just like, I wish Eda was maybe more integrated with Luz, and now I'm thinking like, okay, that's on purpose by the show. That's like not a bug; it's like a feature of the show that she does her own stuff. Do we still want like that's great? She still gets her own plot lines. Do we still kind of wish she was a little bit more integrated into Lumity, into what Luz has going on? Is there a way to do both? I think maybe that's what season 2 might try to explore.
Well, I feel like, I think that's part of the purpose. Well, purpose, I don't know. It's hard to know exactly where we're going, but that we took, Eda's magic away, and now she has to learn to do magic the way Luz does. Assuming.
We're already throwing the mentor like role on its head now, heading into season 2.
Yes. Now we're switching it up. Like she's not going to be mentor anymore, and she's like, so now Luz kind of has like it's literally turning into like the teacher becomes the student.
Yeah, so we're already going to subvert the thing that we were trying to avoid in season 1. Also, Lilith is living there now, so it's like it's probably harder for them to go off on their own if they're all kind of in the same place.
Oh, they're absolutely still going to go off on their own and cause pure chaos.
I feel like they will. We can't abandon that B-plot energy anytime soon. I agree.
You can always go to King for the B-plot, too. That's a whole nother story.
I mean, true. Or Hootie. Just throw it all to Hootie.
Have we had a pure... I don't think we've had... maybe if we had like a Hootie C-plot, I don't know. Have we had a Hootie C-plot?
There we go. A C-plot just for him. It didn't exist before, but now it does.
I mean, when you have a B plot that's Hootie and King, that's pretty good.
Oh yeah, I guess we've had like King or Hootie into Kings. Okay, getting sidetracked on Eda, but so I think that's her role definitely going to change at least a little bit in terms of just the show's going to change heading in the season.
Granted, she still has a lot to teach Luz. Like,
oh for sure.
And I definitely think we're gonna.
Are you saying they'll teach each other?
Yeah. Well, that's we've already seen that happen, though.
Well, that's the thing, though, is I think what's really cool about Eda and also this direction that we're going. I mean, Eda's a wild witch. There's a lot she has to teach Luz about the Boiling Isles, and also I'm curious to see there's kind of two different directions we can take it. You can either go, oh, well, Eda's powerless and she's upset now that she can't do magic the normal way. Or she's like, I'm going to do everything that I've been telling Luz. Like, the island will teach you, like, learn from the island.
So I think that's going to be interesting seeing that. And I think we'll get back to that in terms of like speculating about season 2, what that new teaching dynamic is going to be. So getting into, we've mentioned, I think, most of these aspects already, but hitting on them specifically, her being like an older, in quotes, character, and Dana in a Reddit AMA said she's in her mid to late 40s, Eda. Same with Lilith is 2 years older than her. Yes.
Did she for sure say 40s and not 30s? Because I remember feeling surprised that I assumed she was older than she actually was. Is she 40?
Yeah, she said mid to late 40s. Yeah, I copied that right.
Wild. That's very old. I mean, It feels very old right now, but I guess I don't know. She is a witch. Maybe she'll live to be 125.
What a 20s thing to say, Michelle.
Yeah,
so,
but
so
I guess
old,
super
being-
20s thing to say.
But no, I mean, is it like, I think in some ways we're like, oh, Eda, like we assume that she's, let's not assume she's older because like she looks great. But on the other hand, it's like, oh, she looks great for being like kind of mid to late 40s. So I don't know. Does it matter too much? I think it's relevant for our discussion of what happened in between her at Hexside and now, because there's a lot of time there.
There's a lot of time.
Exactly.
It's like,
well, that's like part of what's interesting. Like, I think that's why it makes sense that she starts off mostly still concerned with her own stuff and kind of only peripherally involved with Luz, because if she's been doing her own thing for like 30 plus years, that takes a while to kind of, reorient your life to make space for someone else when you have decades on decades of not doing that. So, like, realistically, I think it makes sense.
Yeah, I think it is interesting. There's kind of this like maybe framing of her as a little closer to Luz's age, but it is interesting to think about how this is going to affect that. But yeah, just the general thought of like her being a character in her mid to late 40s on a kids show in her own defined role, pretty not typical from what we've seen. Yeah, Delaney, how about her being presented in an attractive way? You said Eda's hot, but
I mean, she is hot. That's just a fact, like objectively. But
she's not like her design. She doesn't look like an old person, right? She's designed in a way that can be appealing.
I will like to say, 40 is not old.
It's not
but
old.
like, I think it's very old to us, given like,
and this is a kids show, so most of the kids watching, it's going to be
for
old,
every 12.
Yeah, for kids watching, they're like their mom's age, like. So, like, I mean, my mom, like, I'm not going to say how old my mom is because she'll appear next to me and beat me. But, like, she is close to my mother's age. And, I think the presentation, like, one, she looks older than she is. Like, they make a big deal about how old she looks when she's not that old, which I think is, like, an interesting, like, thing they have going on because, like, she's hot. But then you're like, she looks way older than she actually is. It's more the, like, she's just, like, she clearly just doesn't care. And I think that's just like an attractive, like, she's just like, I do whatever I want. And like Eda, I think it's the confidence. I think that's like the big, like,
yeah, so like, you're saying like her personality, not just her.
Yes, like it's her personality, and like I think like a lot of what she does, and then of course the first episode is this dude wanting to date her, and she's like, "Can you please like go away forever?"
That's nice. She's framed,
she's like a
hot commodity.
Yeah, she's a hot commodity.
She knows.
So it's like if everyone in the universe already wants to date her, why wouldn't we? They already set that up.
Well, I think it's just like she's just like, yeah. I don't know. It's the confidence and again, it's just her completely blowing off the warden, which is great because like he needs to go away. But I think that definitely is what sets the tone because like Luz just stumbles in and it's this crazy world, but like everything happens because the warden wants to date Eda.
Yeah, I think it's a great point that she's in the pilot instantly framed as an object of affection. Yeah, so I think that's probably a good answer for why it comes across. And we mentioned the pilot in terms of her being framed as an outcast and being different, and that's like what the first episode's about, and a theme we've gotten into throughout the rest of the season as well. So yeah, it's probably a good point. Eda pretty strong right off the bat in the first episode of the show in terms of framing her overall character. I thought it was an interesting point Delaney made about on the outline we made about how she's cursed throughout the season, which I think could be seen as a representation of illness. Delaney, do you want to talk more about that?
Yeah. So this is a very common like storytelling, especially when you're using a fantasy setting, like for a character to have a disease or a curse. In this case it's a curse, like an illness, and it like it is a representation. Like honestly what Eda has is very like representative of a chronic illness, and generally for her it could also just be aging. Like it could be like a metaphor for like growing old because of her, like, one, her appearance, and then also, but like, her limbs pop off, and I'm not sure. I don't think it's just a thing witches do. I'm beginning to suspect.
I don't know.
It's unclear, but like, there's stuff like, and like her, and I mean, I think there's also, some message in there about like, I don't know necessarily. I don't want to necessarily say specifically mental illness, but like she needs to take her medicine every day. Like there's this, and I think that's something too that they really act on, and it like they don't just make it like, oh, she has a curse, and then we just kind of like don't talk about it. It's very present in the first season, and it's very like she has to take this potion, or bad stuff happens. Yeah. So it makes her tired and weak, and it literally drains like her magic. So I think it's a really good way of like, a lot of like, fatigue syndrome. So it can represent that, but it's another way of othering a character. And I think because like, she's not an outcast from society because she can turn into an owl, but like, that's just another like reason why she doesn't really like mingle with the rest of society.
Yeah, I mean, I think like she's in whatever form of representation of being not able-bodied.
Right. Yes, definitely, and I think they do a good job of like showcasing that. Like, I don't think it's like super obvious, but like it's there.
And it's a lot of. I think you talked about a lot of directions it could be interpreted in.
Right.
I think,
which I think that's something that that's just something kind of like when you go with a metaphor like this, it can be pretty general. But I think it's very it's just very representative of what you said of not being able-bodied.
Yeah, and I like the framing of it as chronic illness too, because in the finale, I don't think the implication is that she's like cured of the curse.
Cured. No.
And now her sister is like will now also be chronically ill.
Right. Mm-hmm. The solution, I guess, kind of is that she's like sharing a little bit in it with her sister, but it seems like this is definitely something Eda's going to have to deal with for a while. So I do think that that helps the interpretation of.
That was the thing is, we thought it could like it's kind of like. I mean, we could get more into it about honestly like the implications and like of Lou's trying to cure her, and she can't be cured.
Yeah, and I don't think it's something that the show seemed went into in a lot of detail, I guess, in terms of this being a huge metaphor. But I do like thinking of her in this way of she's a not able-bodied person, maybe someone with chronic illness, and we might see this throughout the rest of the show in various ways of how they're dealing with it. Maybe like accepting instead of curing. We'll see if that's something.
Which I think that's kind of where we're going, because that's kind of what it turned into. Was Lilith was like, I wanted to cure you. I thought we could, and not realizing that what has been done is probably permanent.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's what the whole finale is about. Is Lilith wanting to thinking that the Emperor can cure her.
Right. And I don't know if he could anyway.
We don't know if he can.
He wasn't going to, so like it doesn't really matter.
And maybe if if Lilith just talks to Eda and they figure out how they can best manage it, and she can help her, then that would have been a much better solution than her against her will, kind of just trying to get her to be forced to be cured. If you look at it through that lens, it's a much more blatant metaphor, I think.
And also that was something too. It's like Eda never really showed an interest. Like maybe when she was younger, she wanted to cure it, but now that's not her major concern. Like,
yeah, I think so. I don't think, she takes her potion to kind of manage the symptoms. That's another thing that season 1 is about. Wow. Okay. I was saying that this is not something the show is super. I think this might be one of the more thematic, metaphorical through lines of the first season with Eda. Now that we're kind of breaking it down like this, maybe this was their big intent with her character.
Like it's there. Like that's my thing. Is like this is very much there.
Yeah, because honestly, multiple times throughout the first season, we deal with her the potion to manage the symptoms. Like the whole
tired. Like there's several instances where she's like, "Luz, I can't help you right now. I'm tired." Like I literally honestly, like I don't know if y'all are familiar with about spoons. Like if you don't have enough spoons. Yes. Mm-hmm. And that's, for those listening, if you're not familiar, talking about energy or whatever, like your capability, like you have so many spoons a day, and sometimes you run out of spoons, and so Eda runs out of spoons a lot. Like She's like, I don't have enough spoons to train you today, Luz. You got to go somewhere else.
Interesting. Yeah, I'd like to look back. This make me want to rewatch through this lens for the season.
Which I think, because I think this is something interesting, is that when you first watch, you're just so focused on the mystery of like what's up with Eda, and then you find out, and then it's more, and then of course we're watching it through kind of Luz's perspective, and Luz is like, oh, let's cure Eda, as opposed to like, this is something Eda's been living with for 30 years.
Yeah, and it's true. Like, as much as we're seeing the show through Eda's perspective equally to Luz's, there's just I think we assume through Luz being the main character a lot of things, and we're kind of thrust into this whole situation with the world and with Eda's life situation just as much as Luz's. And so, yeah, I have something that we're going to talk about. I'm interested in is maybe getting more flashbacks to what Eda's been through.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that would help get kind of past this seeing things through trying to figure out whatever.
Well, it makes you wonder if she's suffered more than like, because I would say if you're watching the show, you're like, no one cares. Like, everyone calls her the owl lady, but I don't think they mean it like in a mean way. Like, everyone loves Eda. Like, they're like, oh yeah, Eda's great. Like, we buy Eda's potions, we buy her random crap that she sells from the human world. Like, in the finale where, Willow's like, we're going to revolt right now. We're going to yell. And, they're like, why are you petrifying Eda? Like, Eda hasn't done anything wrong. But it's also interesting to wonder, there is that scene where she runs off because she, turns into an owl and it's scary and people are like, oh my God, what's that? So it makes you wonder, like, what kind of happened in the in-between.
I kind of wonder if her placement in society could be kind of tangential to how she helps other people, because right. I feel like she has real worth. She's able to get things for other people. She sells them products they can't find. She's relatively on good terms with most people because she's pretty charismatic and likable. But at the same time, everyone calls her the owl lady and not Eda, because she is kind of othered because of her curse. And I think also like they probably call her the owl lady because she's like a little weird, like in terms of her personality, which I think's really, so I think like, especially in the finale, it was like, they were kind of like, oh, this is weird. Why is this happening to Eda? But they also, most of them weren't up in arms to stop it. So they would have probably watched it and had opinions about it, but not interfered. And I think that's like one of the things I think is really interesting, because I feel like it could go either way. It just depends on how people like Luz and Eda are able to channel that energy in the rest of the town. If the majority of people are going to be on their side or not, because it seems a little up in the air right now. And I like that it's kind of loose and uncertain.
Loose and uncertain, yeah. Kind of, I feel like talking about kind of the othering of Eda that the show has, that maybe the other characters on the show, how her society views her, I think that's really interesting. And maybe if, like we potentially suspect Eda and Luz are the major part of some sort of rebellion moving forward,
right?
How much that is going to be able to succeed is like are these other people going to be able to empathize with her and be on her side? Or is she just so othered by their society that this might be an obstacle?
I don't know. There's a lot going on because, there's a lot of facets to this society that this is going to just become a lore pod. Who knows? But, when you talk about, so we had, the conformatorium, and, that's terrible. There's that aspect of it. It's not even, it's almost unrelated to magic. It's just, you're different. We're going to put you in jail. And then we have the, witches are in charge. And it's it doesn't seem like everyone's a witch. So, I wonder if there's some more, I'm not sure we'll get into this or not, in the show, but it's we might kind of have a social caste system. It's kind of like an Avatar.
You want non-benders.
I think we do, right? Because you have people like the Bat Queen who aren't witches. They're kind of mythic.
Yeah, there's magical creatures. Yeah.
Yeah, they're more ancient, maybe, and maybe and extra powerful in their own way. So they're not all witches for sure.
And that's my thing. And I'm so obviously, like, we don't like the Emperor, and like the system for witches is terrible, and you would assume it also poorly impacts other people, but at the same time, it's like, you know, witches are they're like the preferred, you know, like. So it's I'm curious how that might play out, because it's interesting, because I think Eda can bridge both sides because she's cursed, but then also like Eda's like the most powerful witch.
Yeah, but thinking about it, my understanding based on the first season would be witches are like the humanoids, but they themselves would all be magical. Right. Like we haven't seen examples otherwise, and then they have to pick a tract as the kind of Emperor's constrained that. But yeah, there is the presentation of other sorts of magical creatures throughout, and we don't really know how any of that works. Yes, that would be interesting. And for all we know, there could be completely non-magical people. I think we've probably not really seen it yet.
Which there are. I mean, there's definitely like students at Hexside that are not, you know, quote unquote human, but they're witches.
Oh, there are other. Yeah, interesting. So witches don't need to be humanoids. Yeah, I don't know what determines that. Yeah, interesting. Hopefully we'll get further clarification on a lot of what's going on. But I think it is relevant to like what is the perception of the norms of their society in terms of talking about the othering of Eda. But it's, you know, seems like what's going on with her, what we're thinking of as her disability with her curse is not seen as normal by the society. Right. And then
also they've othered her like she's a criminal.
And that's the other thing to get into. Yeah, she is a criminal. She's like an outcast, not only in terms of maybe how she acts, not only in terms of the fact that she's rejected the coven system, not only in terms of that she's not able-bodied like the other people are, so she has this curse on her. She's also like seen as a criminal by society, but that is because she hasn't conformed, right? It's not like
exactly. That's how I understand. Here's the thing too: is how I understand like she's a criminal because she's defied.
The coven system. Yeah.
But I do wonder, are we going to get more into, granted, they might just have a long list of stupid crimes. Like, they're like, all right, Eda, and then they just, like, list, like, a bunch of dumb stuff. But, like, I think when you think about it, being a criminal is, like, the ultimate othering. In this society, definitely, in that, like, their laws are stupid. like, she chose to not join a coven, and that's against the law, and so she's a criminal, and that's basically put her outside of society, because the entire society is based on being in these neat little boxes.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could make a larger societal argument that being a criminal is just a label of an othering by society.
Yes, no, definitely.
And that it's kind of like an illegitimate designation. Yeah, and definitely. You could say Owl House is kind of making that argument as you originally learn Eda as like a wanted criminal, and later it's like I feel like we're supposed to understand that she hasn't necessarily really done anything wrong. It's just not going by the system.
No, I would agree. Like there is not like. Other than, like, Eda isn't necessarily, like, the squeakiest, like, of people. Like, you know, she does sketchy things. But, like, you know, it's not... You're definitely supposed to be, like... I think a good example is, like, Grunkle Stan. Like, you're like, Grunkle Stan, you suck. What are you doing? Like, he does stuff that you're like, that's not okay.
Yeah, he's like a con artist, yeah.
Like, he's a con artist. Like, he is, like, not doing... Like, what he's doing is bad. But, like...
He's just not hurting anyone.
Yeah, Eda's not doing it. Like, Eda, like, I mean, she sells garbage, but, like...
What is she, illegally selling human goods?
Exactly,
yeah.
Like, and... I mean, you could maybe argue that, like, what she sells is stolen human garbage, but, like, do we know that? Who knows? But, like... So I think there's definitely, like, you're supposed to, like... You're supposed to think Eda's right, because she is. Like... And then that's another thing we can, you know, talk about more speculation, like... Eda's now been pardoned.
Yeah, can we talk about this? I didn't. So the Emperor Belos at the end, like, says he just doesn't care. He's going to send a spy, but they can probably just exist. Yeah. But she is pardoned in the finale.
I think so. Like, I think that's something he makes, like, basically makes a statement as to the effect of, like, she's no longer, like. He's not going to hunt her anymore. She's no longer like. So I think in that case, it would indicate that. No, granted, I don't know about Lilith because like that's some other crap going on. But like to me, it indicated to me that like we're not going to get hunted anymore. Now, granted, like I think like if we're in the town square, the guards aren't just going to come like try and grab her. So I think like, you know, the spy is whatever. That's just sketchy nonsense. But yeah, no, I am I can't remember like the specifics.
It's not sketchy nonsense. What basically happened is like, so he tries to turn her to stone. It doesn't work.
Oh no, I say sketchy nonsense to the effect of like he's gonna spy on her.
Right. Like,
That's
I think
sketchy.
basically it's like he lost face, and in order to maintain his control, he's like, oh, no, this was the plan. Like, yeah, see, in the goodness of my heart, I decided to spare her, so it's fine. But that was clearly just a show for the townspeople. He fully intends to capture her. He's just going to be on the down low because of the statement he just made about it.
Yeah, so we'll see to what extent there's like, are there wanted posters anymore? Is the warden going after? Not that he's much of a character anymore, but
well,
like,
he wants to date her. That's a different.
Yeah.
So I guess it's a pretense for that. Yeah. Yes, so that's honestly now the last 20 minutes of this discussion is there's so much more kind of progressive themes underneath Owl House than I am necessarily realizing, which the first time watching, which is making me appreciate the show a lot more. So I think that's a great discussion. But just like this notion of othering of people who are different and how that relates to who we ostracize both legitimately by like the government in terms of being a criminal and otherwise, and then also this presentation of Eda as not able-bodied. I feel like the show is legitimately commenting on all these things in the first season.
No, I think something like I don't think the show lost it, but like the Conformatorium was a really like they were like, here's our first episode, we're going to sell this real. It's
a lot more overt than the themes are throughout the rest of the season.
Overt.
Like they're like, here it is, and then we kind of lose it a little bit, like.
I feel like now that I'm thinking about it, the finale I feel like brings it a lot back. Now that we learn that there's wild witches who just don't conform, and those are people who are criminals. I feel like that's the show's version of bringing it, like of culminating that kind of theme. But it is probably present in more subtle ways throughout the first season. Should the show be more overt with its themes? Like,
I mean,
that's what
okay,
I'm thinking.
Here's my thought. So I feel like the first episode and towards the end, they kind of double down on like it's better to be weird and embrace that weirdness and not necessarily conform to a society that seems to have a lot of bad stuff going on.
Yeah.
But within that, we also see things like Eda changes her mind about Luce going to school, and she supports that. And within that, we see Luce able to, change the principal's mind about potentially letting. So it's like, I think it's both that it's not saying like dismantle the system. It's also like fix the system from the outside. That might also be possible. And I think the combination of that is somewhere where the show's striking a balance of how it's approaching that.
I think they definitely do. Well, it's kind of interesting when you think about it, like how, like I like what you're saying about this, and it's true. But then there's another undercurrent of Eda has to let Luz decide on her own what's right and what's wrong.
That's also
and I think that's something that's like that's something that was really powerful to me, and that really struck out to me watching the first season. Like that's ultimately why she lets Luz go to school. She's like, it's not up to me. And, Luz has to decide for herself, like, what is right and what's wrong about this society. And because it's no different than them telling you, like, them being, like, the emperor. And we kind of have a similar thing happen with Willow. Like, Willow's, like, fangirling, gushing about, like, they're about to go to the emperor's castle. And then everything, like, goes wrong. And then at the end, Willow's like, all right, we're rising up. Like, so I think it's interesting. Like, it's kind of about like learning things for yourself, but then it's also like, we have to dismantle it, but then also like, and I think that there's a lot to be said about like Luz changing the principal's mind, and like you can
for
change
sure.
minds.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a lot going on. Like, there's a lot going on here, and I'll be interested. Like, the rebellion has to be coming. Like, do I think we're going to change the emperor's mind? No, but like, I don't think this is that story. Like, I don't think
change your minds. Okay.
No. I was literally about to say we're going to go more with the Emperor. It's going to be more Avatar than Steven Universe, but maybe we can change the minds along the way.
Yeah, I think both.
Well, like think about Amity, like the kind of about face Amity's had as a character. Like, we can get more of that. I don't think her parents are salvageable, but we don't know.
We really don't know.
We have not seen them yet, but I think most people assume, and it's fair. But okay, yeah, I really love this discussion. I feel like for me, it's like I've always understood. I think it's very clear. Owl House is like weird is good. I think that's like I think that's like it's one of its most blatant themes coming from the first episode. But now that we're talking more about it, it's like not only is weird good, but it's like societally criminalizes weird and purposefully others things that do not fit into our society. I feel like that's the more subtle message that is being presented, and now one that I feel like is legitimately there now that we're talking about it.
Yes, it's always. I mean, when you say subtle, I'm like, oh, it wasn't subtle to me. It's one of the first things I got excited about as soon as we got Eda.
Well,
I
mean, I guess you think of the conformatorium, it's also doing that.
She resonates that tension by simply existing as she is in
Yes.
that world, and so you have to think about it constantly every time you see Eda, and
Well, I
she's there
definitely
all
would
the
say
time.
They are like, there's the conformatorium, and then it's much subtler the rest of the season until the finale.
Yeah, but
Like,
I do
pull
like
strings.
the information of the not conforming to the coven system is
I
the
feel like
crime
that's
in
pretty
itself.
overt too. 'Cause,
Yeah,
like,
no, and
the
I'm
way
saying
Eda-
I feel like
yeah.
we brought it there at the end of the season. So I like the track we're on with that. And so I feel like Eda, what you guys were talking about with Eda relative to letting Luz kind of figure stuff out for, like, Eda's someone who has kind of suffered the injustices of society and views society as being broken, and she's like othered, and she wants to stay othered because she's like screw all this, like this sucks, so I'm gonna do it. So that's like, I feel like that's part one, and now she's someone thrust into her life, and she's like, oh, I want you to, I know what's right, I want you to follow what I know to be right, but it's not necessarily what's right for Luz, it's not necessarily what's right in general, it's just what Eda's experienced.
Right.
And so from the Eda perspective, we've like seen where she is in life now, and so it's like, what's next? Like, what's like, she like understands what she's experienced, the injustice of society, understands, like, how does she respond, like, how does Luz respond, how do those kind of coincide? Maybe those are the sorts of things we're gonna get into in season 2. Is she in a position to do something about it now?
I think that's like kind of what we've already started seeing. Because like Delaney was saying, Eda went from being like, oh man, you don't want anything to do with school, that's bad news bears, to being like, oh, Luce would really love it here though, and I want that for her. And just because it's not what I want doesn't mean it couldn't be a good thing for her, because she's a different person who needs to, choose things for herself. And I can't make those choices. I think Eda understands that enough, because she's a pretty free spirit, and she wants to, let loose also have that kind of autonomy to make decisions. I really feel like one of the things I really like about Eda is that she's like not, like, I keep feeling like she's gonna be in the revolutionary fight against Emperor Bellis, but she's not super interested in that right now. And I love that
true.
Too. Like, she's very uninterested about
She's
changing
just
the
like,
world.
as soon as
just
Luz
wants
does
to
it,
change
she's
the
gonna
world
be in
for
there.
like, she just wants to be comfortable doing her own
Yeah,
stuff. And
which I think that's
I'm sorry.
Well, that I think is one of the most compelling things about Eda, is like this, like, we know the rebellion is coming and it's happening because of Luz, but like, that's not what Eda cares about. But I think that's also like kind of circling back a little bit. Like, for me, I'm interested in like how this is going to impact Eda, like Eda's identity, like her concept of her identity and her place in society now that she's been pardoned.
Yeah, so I think with Eda, it's like she's been kind of broken down by being othered and by being ostracized, and so she's kind of given up on it before she met Luz. Yeah. And so she's only really interested in just living her best life, which is valid, but it'd be nice if she strived for social change. And I think that
she will. I think Luz is the one who,
and I think Luz is the spark that like is probably gonna get that
I think it's
going.
interesting. We have Luz, who is other in our society, in the society she comes from, and then she's coming into like her dream world, and then she's like, we're gonna change it right now, like, let's go.
Yeah. Luz also othered in her own right in this society.
Yes, absolutely. That's another thing, she's also other. I will say it's she's like a new kind of other, like, she's definitely being othered, but like they're like putting her in her own box, like.
Yeah, we already know. Well, I think a lot of us have speculated, and we talked about this in the Lumity, I think, speculation podcast, are Amity's parents going to not approve of Luz, not because she's a girl, but because she's a human. And this discussion makes me think that's totally what we're going to do, is like Luz facing kind of human discrimination. We already know they don't approve of weaker witches.
Right.
But the show seems very interested in exploring people who are othered by society in various aspects.
I actually think, granted, it's because I've read fan fiction about it, but I mean, I think there's an interesting story to tell. Like, let's say they're like, "Oh, you're a human," but then they find out how powerful Luz is as a witch.
Yeah, and it's like, what's going to prevail there?
Yeah.
My thought would be like a lot of times our prejudices are illogical. So it's like I only like powerful people. Well, here's a powerful person. It's just not the type of person you normally
Exactly,
approve
yeah.
of. Oh, we still hate her, right? Like it's
yeah.
that would make sense to me. But that is pretty interesting. See, I like the idea of like starting to maybe like speculate about what's to come with Eda is like loses maybe more of a spark, especially after what she just went through with Lilith and how Lilith is going to be living with her now. Is like how does this change her view of not necessarily her view of society. I think she's always understood that things are broken. I think she has that seeing that through with more clarity than anyone else in the Boiling Isles. It's just like what's her course of action now? Is she still only going to be interested in really tending to her family in the Owl House,
right?
Or is this going to eventually desire her to have spark some more social change? Because I think this relates to we had the thought of like what else is going on with Eda in this in the backstory. What else happened? Like, so we see her when she's like 16 maybe in the flashbacks in the finale episodes. And then we see her now when she's, mid to late 40s. There's a large period there where we don't really know what she's doing. The only hint that I saw is in the second to last episode. Eda says, it's my power, kid. And before you showed up, I spent my whole life wasting it. And part of the dramatics moments, as she's turning into the owl. So I think that goes along with maybe our impression of Eda's character. That's maybe our best stint of like, she really has just been living her best life up until now in the outskirts of society. She's not, I think me and Michelle, as we were speculating, like maybe Eda was part of a rebellion before, but I think that's probably not like what that line would imply.
That was something I was thinking, but also like her character, like I think we can see it in season 1, like just like you said with the line in episode 18, we have it, like we go into the conformatorium and Luz is like, we're going to free them all. Because Eda, they just want to get the Burger King crown back for King. But...
yeah, right. Like that's the whole spark there. Is it's just like, okay, I like King. And honestly, King coming into Eda's life is probably a changing dynamic in its own right. I assume King hasn't been in there for like 20, 30 years.
Right, yeah.
So it's like, here's someone for Eda to care
Look, if you just get a dog, your life will improve.
Yeah, a little bit more, I guess, like empathy. I mean, not just active empathy displayed in terms of having King to care about.
That's an interesting thing. Like, she really cares about King, and she went to all this trouble to get his stupid Burger King crown back. But then she's also like, other people. So, like, which I think is a very interesting dynamic, and like an interesting, like, that's why I think that's another reason to appreciate Eda is like, she's not the hero you want her to be, which I think that's kind of like. But Luz is getting her there, like
right. Like, I mean, it's not like she's wrong or it's like a huge criticism, but like obviously it'd be better if it's better if people try to take active action to help others,
right?
And for the most part, we don't see that.
Line, like she is the most powerful witch in the Boiling Isles, and she knows it.
And she's just been so like broken down by society that she just uses it for like pretty silly purposes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's
she could probably like 1v1 the Emperor. Like,
yeah, I mean, Lou's kind of 1v1 the Emperor.
Yeah, exactly. That was, I mean, he's a dum-dum. That was...
yeah, outsmarted. But it's like why I think one of my thoughts with Eda is like, if she's the most powerful witch in the Boiling Isles, why is she selling human goods and
living in a shack at like
living in
the
like
edge
a weird
of the
shack with the why choose to stay living with Hootie? I mean, honestly,
why would anyone choose to? First of all,
but I now that with like talking to like this is part 1 of her story, right? This is us being introduced to her current position after her experiences and what she's gone through. And
that's something I really like about like Luz and Eda's dynamic is we go from like this is another thing. I think it's why it's so important that Eda's her own separate character and has her own plot lines. Like, Steven Universe, for example, Steven changes everyone he interacts with because that's how magical Steven is. And he's such a great person. Well, that's what Luz is. But like Luz is literally changing this like curmudgeon-y old lady who has been living this way for so long. And I think it's almost like a little bit more compelling.
But I feel like, her losing her magic, Lilith being back in her life, these are like pretty foundational changes to Eda that, from what we understand, probably are probably is so different from what we saw like from when she's in high school, right? Like it's probably the biggest change in her life since then. So like, I don't know, how's Eda going to respond to this? This is like a pretty sort of tumultuous time for a really hard time for her, honestly. She's been through a lot too. So are we going to start off with her being kind of like sad? I don't know.
And my thing is also like expecting a lot of friction. Like Lilith's like, I'm here now.
Probably going to clash with Lilith. Yeah.
Oh, and I figure like Luz and Lilith are going to like fist fight. Like Luz is going to be like, you suck. I hate you.
Yeah. And Luz and Lilith, and then Lilith and
Eda,
and
then Lilith
and
and Hootie. Gonna mess her up.
No, King,
God, can
yeah.
Lilith kill Hootie? That'd be great.
I mean, people I've seen already a lot of fan art about this. Is this what's happening? But I think, okay, so like, circling back to maybe this, how many flashbacks are we going to see? It's based on discussion. Are we going to see maybe not a ton? Like, is it less important what Eda's been through before this? Because maybe the purpose of season 1 Eda is setting up where she is now, and like that's the important thing.
Is this could just be wishful thinking? Because we have to bring up Lumity every podcast because that's what the show's about. So I wonder, like, they've just hinted a lot at, like, their parents. And I'm like, what's up with your parents, bro? So, like, I wonder if maybe they're going to have to talk about their parents in regards to, like, maybe because of, like, Amity parent drama. But I don't know. Like, I'm not, like, I agree. Like, after talking it out, it's like, I don't think it matters anymore because it's really just been about the curse. Unless we're going to get, like, an angry ex, which I hope is a woman. But, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what purpose some of these flashbacks would serve. Or, like, would we get them? I don't know.
I would like to see some flashbacks just for the context of, like, Lilith and Eda, because if they're going to try to be repairing the relationship,
right,
I feel like...
Is there, like, Michelle, is there, like, have they interacted between the end of... like her time at Hexside until what we see in season 1? Like, is she been going after for a while? I feel like maybe not.
I would assume so. I think probably more aggressively as soon as she became like the Emperor's right hand witch. But I mean, according to her, she assumed the curse was only going to last like a day. So, I mean, even when Eda ran off, there, as far as she knew, by like nighttime or next morning, Eda would have been back to normal. So I feel like there was probably a period where, you know, Lilith felt deep shame and maybe she did distance herself. But it's like, what happened to Eda? She just leave her family as a teenager and like immediately started living on the streets? Like, I feel like there is some backstory there. I feel like for Eda, the backstory I would be most interested in is like how she started her life on her own, how she met King, and just everything that relates to Lilith, because that's just based on the relationships the show has already highlighted as important, and those are the ones I'd probably want to see a little more fleshed out.
Yeah, you're right. There's totally stuff we don't know about in terms of like how she came to live at the Owl House, but probably in terms of what's most relevant to the show, it's like have her and Lilith really interacted.
Yeah, that's like that number one.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That's probably what the show's going to be most interested in itself. But I mean, is there like past relationships? We've heard Eda refer to her former boyfriends. Are there former flames, maybe in general, that could pop up here? That could be interesting to see.
It would be on brand.
Yeah, on brand with what's been but probably not the most important. I mean, you could see an episode where it's like how she came to meet King.
Oh, that'd be cute. I'd like that.
King Eda origin episode. Hootie, how she came to meet Hootie.
No, we don't need that episode.
Oh, okay. I guess we don't. I know. I would. Your mileage may vary on that one, and. So I think like probably the show will use it sparingly, kind of more flashbacks with Eda. We didn't get any until the finale, so probably it's indicating.
And it was serving a mystery, so I'm curious, like
specifically answering the question of the curse, which was a major plot point.
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess so in terms of like Eda, what's happening with Eda moving forward? I think we've been talking about this, like what's going to be addressed immediately? I think Lilith, right? Her not having magic. Is she like her learning from Luz? Right? These are like pretty big subjects. The season's probably gonna immediately get into.
Like, I don't know when we're gonna have the rebellion. Like,
I think probably none of us are expecting season 2 to immediately go ham with
Right.
the plot and
Well, I mean, we have like this Day of Unity that is seemingly coming soon. So maybe like mid season 2, or it could be the finale.
Yeah,
It depends on how fast time works in season 2.
That's true. That's correct.
I thought you were going to say on the boiling owls, like, does our time work
Well,
According to fan fiction, there is, but like, who
Okay,
knows?
yeah. I mean, that, yeah.
Just so you know, me,
Yeah, you're the
I am the
expert
voice of the
on the fan.
for this.
Fan fiction authors, the voice
Yeah.
of all the third. Yeah, no, it's like, right. It's like, what pace are we moving at? Like, what is Day of Unity the season 2 finale? If in that case, like, maybe we have more time. I think mid season 2 probably you'd expect things to pick up more, moving towards a direction.
Also,
of
I feel like
addressing
the
that.
spy plotline can't go on that long. Like, they're gonna figure out there's a spy. Like,
Who's gonna figure that out?
Eda, because she's not stupid.
Eda, yeah. Hootie.
Honestly,
Hootie's the home security. He should
But
be the
Hootie
one to
is the
figure
home
it out.
he's been
Correct.
good about it before. Why you doubt him now? He found Lilith in the
Look,
bushes.
It's true. As much as we knock Hootie, he did find and beat up Lilith, for a while away. He might be too distracted with Lilith, but maybe that's what they're gonna do. Like, he's maybe Amity's around too. Maybe he's too many enemies that he thinks are friends, and
yeah, he doesn't know. He could be.
He can't tell the difference.
Okay, it can't be that hard to thwart Hootie. Like,
you say that, but Lilith was not able to. I feel like
that's
so.
true. You do make an extremely valid point.
Yeah, I feel like Lilith not as much as she's the head of the Emperor's Coven. I don't know if we're supposed to think she's the best witch there is.
Yeah, like I'm not convinced she's that competent now that I think about it. Like,
we just don't see a lot before she kind of fails to bring Eda in. So.
Well, it's because like that's her one job, and she's
Yeah.
doing it really half-heartedly.
that's
That's
so,
true. That's true.
We
Her heart's
haven't
not in
seen
it,
her
yeah.
really committed to anything not involving Eda yet. It could be a different story when it's not like her sister.
Granted, I would say Eda was totally gonna win, except Lilith was like, "I'm just gonna kill the kid." So like,
Yeah, it was the whole thing of like the villain doesn't have the morals stopping them. Yeah.
yeah,
But no, I mean, maybe Lilith's heart hasn't been in it this whole time. She's born for the Emperor's Coven.
Absolutely,
she's
I
had
don't
this,
think it
this,
has.
this angst with
I don't know.
Eda,
I
yeah.
agree.
She's
with
really
you,
guilty.
but then she did yeet the child off the cliff.
You
Yeah,
can
but the
still
child's
do.
not her sister. The child is like, she doesn't have the same connection
That's true. I
to
agree.
lose because it's
Yeah.
not her stand-in child figure. It's just some
That's
random
true.
kid.
It's not her child. Yeah.
But
Who is
I mean,
Lilith's
she
stand-in
did do
child
it to hurt Eda, so I don't know.
It's
I mean,
complicated,
I
those
agree, but
emotions.
she did. I just wanted it to state on the record that Lilith did yeet the child into the abyss.
Yeah, we
She
do,
was in
yeah.
a bubble.
That
Yeah,
was
she's
gonna
like, the
pop.
bubble's for
but
your
okay.
protection.
Yeah, maybe.
yeah,
Magic bubble.
Probably now Lilith. We're expecting Lilith to be a better person now that her angst with Eda has been resolved.
I assume
Resolved is a strong
there's gonna be
word,
some
but-
friction. Like
Yeah.
Lilith is still gonna be like. I think it's gonna be one of those like breaking those walls down, like where Lilith was very like rigid. And like this will be interesting too. She kind of represents the society that sucks so bad.
Yes, yeah. I mean, she's the head of the Emperor's Coven.
Yeah.
Lilith is kind of this figurehead for the broken society that.
So we're
Eda
gonna have to
views.
we're gonna have to beat her down a little bit. Be like, no, you were having bad thoughts.
Right,
Bad.
we're definitely doing the thing where she's not just like fully on board with everything, even though she's been rejected by the Emperor and the Coven, presumably that she loves so much. Like, it's the type of thing where she's the Peridot type of thing where she's still going to default to the societal norms.
absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's probably what we're in store for. And how does Eda react to that? How does Eda manage the relationship? This is probably top of the list. And season 1 with Eda, I feel like number one thing was her and Lilith was the thing they cared most about. So
Absolutely.
seeing that continued is going to be top of the list. And
We
any
love sisterly relationships. Let's go.
yeah, Michelle, any other things you're maybe looking forward to from season 2, Eda?
I mean, I do keep thinking about, when you guys were talking about her relationship to King and how she risked like all that stuff to get like an objectively not important Burger King-esque cardboard crown for him. I think it says a lot that Eda has a lot of loyalty. which also proves she's not like completely a hermit and incapable of caring about people. She's just really selective because there's a lot not going great for her in terms of her relationship to a lot of other people in town and the society at large. So I do think that, you know, as she has started to, you know, invest a lot of loyalty to Luz, that's like how she's going to be able to open up to other people. Like Luz is going to be the gateway, but then stuff like, you know, getting reconnected with Lilith and then potentially maybe other witches or people from her past. Like, I think like it's going to be entirely possible, and her relationship to the rest of the town's probably going to change for the better in the long run. I don't know if that's a season 2 thing, but I think that's definitely a like over the course of the entire show thing. We're going to see that unfold.
Yeah, I think that's a great point.
The loyalty's always been there. The care has. It's just that it's been very specifically directed at a very few amount of people for a long, long time.
If she can like take the town under her wing, if she can realize that it's like not the common people's fault that that everything's so screwed up, then she can start to fight for them and accept them more. She can see them the way she sees like King or Luz. And if she can do that, she can be very useful. It's just that it's the getting her to that point. I don't think she's there yet, but I think she could definitely get there, and her whole attitude could change. Yeah, I love that as like maybe a ending point for Eda, maybe in a season 3, or you know, starting to work towards that this season. But yeah, it's, you know, it's just hard to expect that from her, considering how few people have shown her kindness up to this point.
It's understandable.
Yeah, and I love the idea of like from like one thing I'd love to see, and I keep talking about the Wild Witches, but how about Eda having a friend her age that's like not her sister, right? Like who maybe who has similar experiences to her. Like if we do meet other Wild Witches, I think that could help to shift her perspective a little bit. If she talks to some like-minded people.
What if when they're trying to like unbrainwash Lilith, Eda, like, so Eda's like, it's Eda and Luz trying to be like, you suck, stop doing that, and then it's kind of like it also starts to like help Eda more.
Yeah, the process of
like teaching Lilith to not suck
is going to help her realize what is good and bad about where she's at. Yeah, totally. And, you know, maybe Luz like teaching her.
Good place. Luz has to be like, all right, we're going to have class.
She the philosophy teacher, Luz?
Yeah.
Luz is cheaty. That's interesting. But I mean, Luz teaching her magic, shifting her perspective on magic could shift her perspective on the world. And when we say shift her perspective, it's not that her perspective is so wrong. In fact, she probably has more things right than anyone else at the Boiling Isles. It's just like, you know, ultimately probably not the healthiest place for her or for everyone else, like in terms of there being some sort of resistance for overcoming the Emperor. I mean, really, it's just like the ultimate message is like the whole societal structures are negatively impacting everyone, and Eda included, even if she feels like she's broken free from it to a certain extent. But what's going on with Lilith, what Luz teaching her, I think these are pretty key things. Yeah. So that's going to be really interesting to see. Delaney, any other things you're particularly interested in seeing from season 2?
I mean, honestly, everything Michelle said is like is kind of what I want. I would love to see like more about King and Eda's like backstory like together.
That feels like a very special episode, not like in that sense, but just like that feels like a mid-season fun special you could do.
Yeah. Also, I mean, this is stupid, but like I really want her to get involved with like Lumity and like torture Luz about it.
Yes, though. Honestly,
that's what I want.
That'd be so cute.
Like, please, or maybe like when Amity's around, Eda like kind of like, oh god, it'd be great. Like, please.
If Eda just starts teasing Luz about Amity, you know,
or teasing Amity,
teasing
like,
Amity,
I don't care. Like, I'm fine. Like,
either way,
like that's really what I need. Like, I thought we were gonna get like, I feel like it's coming. Like after Grom, like come on.
Yeah, you could argue Eda maybe has some knowledge of this. Based on the Understanding Willow episode, I mean, she's really, she's right there.
Like, she's right there.
Literally right there.
So, I feel like she has like, the evidence.
It'd be so great. Like, I love, like, all the memes where, like, Lilith has no idea and Eda's like, really? So, I think that'd be great if that was true.
Yeah. What if, through, helping lose or amity with the other in terms of liking each other, she comes to realize her own liking of women.
Yes, that's also great.
That would be very good.
This is good.
That seems ambitious for the show as a plotline, but that could be like we already have one gay, double gay, like that, you know.
Yeah.
But, okay.
Well, I know like the voice actors for Lilith, like I don't think it's gonna matter in the show, but like basically they were like, yeah, Lilith's gay, so like,
yay!
Yeah, we have no. I mean, we have no.
To be fair, it's because the voice actress of Lilith is queer, but like,
yay!
We've seen no any
She'll
interest
gayness,
thus far with Lilith. So
no matter what, if the voice actor is already gay, you're like halfway there.
I'm like, okay, I will be honest, I can't remember if like they're gay or if they were just like, yeah, I'm totally on board with Lilith being gay. I think the answer might be both. Unsure.
I think I saw that for like Edric, the voice actor of Edric was like, oh, he's totally gay, something like that, right? Like,
yeah, that happened with Edric, and then it also happened with Lilith.
Okay, nice.
So
all of our secondary, I'll ask her.
Everyone's just gay.
Okay, I like it. Yeah, no, I feel like that's such a good way to, because like we said in the beginning, it's great. Like, I think that Eda has her own plotlines and we want that to continue. I think also integrating maybe with what's going to lose more would also be good. And I feel like Lumity is like a great way to do that. Also, it's our fave part. So,
it's the most important part.
I mean, you know, it could, let's compare the discussion in this podcast to the discussion on the Lumity podcast. You know, a lot more of some substantial, important topics.
It doesn't
being
have to be
discussed here.
substantial when it's cute and gay. Okay,
I mean, I would agree with that.
Matter.
I feel like I'm speaking for people who. I don't know. Are there people? At first, I was like, people probably think we talk about Lumity too much, but then, you know.
It's like,
I feel like I haven't heard a lot of
think
resistance
so.
to that. So
yeah, I don't think anyone cares. I don't think anyone's upset.
I feel like that's what a lot of people are most interested in right now. But I mean, honestly, yeah, no, I think if we go in the direction of some of these things we're talking about with Eda, I think this is going to be hugely standout.
My wish list. It doesn't matter, but like I want Eda and Camilla to date.
Oh yeah. So
it's not going to happen. But
is she going to meet Luz's mom?
She's probably going to meet her at some point. She's been momming it up all summer. They're going to have a talk for sure.
Yeah,
I just need some sort of interaction. Like I need a dynamic. That's all.
He's gonna be like, "Look, I know you don't understand what being a nerd is, but I do, and your daughter's great. Just let her be a nerd. She'll be fine."
Yeah, I mean, it's like, hey, Luz's real mom, I'm Luz's new mom, right? Like,
yeah,
right.
My God. Like I just
gotta have co-parentship every half a year. She comes to
they have custody. It's gonna be great. Oh,
that's the number one reason we need to open the portal is so
or
Camilla can
Camilla just moves
to figure out custody.
Yeah, we have to figure out
number one reason.
Camilla can just move to the Boiling Owls, right? Like
she would have a heart attack. Absolutely not.
Great. I don't see a problem with this.
Trial by fire. She's just forced to be there, and then she'll be introduced to all these demons. Yeah, it would be a lot. Okay, so yeah, a lot of people are shipping.
I mean, meeting Hootie.
There are a lot of people shipping.
I ship Camilla and Eda so hard. I read like all the fanfic. I'm like, yes.
So that would be a top of a lot of people's list for. But you know, we got it. I feel like it's probably not possible in season 2 because the portal's closed. But maybe we can get it open. Or, I mean, you know, there's always the possibility that either Camilla or Eda knows more, like, because of the letters. So is there something, is there a connection there because the letters? But, you know, we'll see.
I hate when they do stuff like that. Like, there's literally no way of knowing.
Yeah, we don't know. We'll
That's the best thing to not know. That's that.
No, I want to figure it out.
Awesome.
Okay, and the last question was going to be, is Eda a himbo?
I think so.
Evidence. 1, you guys have been calling her attractive throughout the entire podcast,
yeah,
so that's great. 2, she acts pretty dumb. She's not dumb, but she acts dumb.
I'm preparing my counter defense right now.
No,
3, she's a sweetheart. She loves, we know she's got a heart of gold. So what's the biggest counter to that, Michelle? I think she meets the criteria in at least some fashion.
Maybe on a very shallow glance, she meets the criteria for Himbo. But for Himbo, the most important thing is that they're super dumb. Like, they are very incapable of making normal decisions the average person can make. And Eda, there is a difference between seeming like carefree and uninterested and being straight up dumb. I do I do
She is
not
not
think
nearly as
Eda
dumb.
is straight up dumb. If you're thinking like Kronk dumb, you're closer to Himbo. If you're thinking like Storkules levels dumb, that's what we need, because that is what takes off the edge of having this massive, giant, muscly person. They're no threat to you because they're just really dumb. You don't have to worry about them. They're just nice and dumb and huge body, but like very small brain inside of that nostril.
I agree.
Huge
That's
body,
what a
small
himbo
brain.
is in its simple, purest form. And there's been a lot of like people claiming that people are himbos in the past year, and I gotta put my foot down with Eda because like absolutely not.
Okay,
She's
how do you
too-
feel about
she's too
Adora
clever.
being a himbo?
Yeah, so Michelle, I would agree with you. We did the
Adora's
himbo
a
bracket
lot
on the
yeah,
on the
Adora,
YouTube channel.
Adora's a big himbo.
I
feel
thought-
like Adora's mostly a himbo about her own love life, though. Like, I
That's
feel like
true.
she's able to compartmentalize a little better. Like, she wasn't at so much of a himbo that she couldn't save the world by, you know.
Okay, to
letting
be clear,
herself
what saved the world?
Catra.
It was Catra, because Catra's
Yeah.
like, we're gonna make out right now. So who really saved the world?
I mean, that's true. It's definitely a team effort. I think Adora's like a lot closer. I'd say maybe like 85% himbo energy from
She's
Adora.
such a-
Eda's maybe like a 60, and that's the most I'd ever give her.
It's higher than
Okay.
50. I think Dylan wins.
That's
It's a
no
passing grade, 60%.
Yeah.
That'll get you through
It passes.
That's
through
not bad.
college. You know.
That's a squeaker. I don't support that.
Win by a
That's
squeaker. Yeah, we accept it. No, but I would agree. There are a lot of potential himbos that it's like they act dumb, but they're not really dumb.
They're not
you could
really
argue,
dumb.
You could
That's
argue
true.
Adora's that too, but I think she is
Yeah.
closer. Yeah.
No, Adora. I will say Adora is like legit dumb. Like I love her dumb.
More evidence with Adora being dumb.
There's a lot of evidence that Adora is
Eda,
dumb.
Eda's just silly. I feel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Eda's
more
not,
silly
like-
than
Eda's just-
dumb.
Having a
I
good
will say
time.
Eda at times has him. Okay, I don't think the Owl House has a himbo.
That's true.
Maybe like Edric would be like the closest.
Edric, yeah, I think Gus is maybe a young himbo.
Gus, I
training.
did feel Gus. I was like, he's kind of a little bit of a himbo.
I
Yeah.
feel like
It's not
the
big
like
enough yet.
bro energy / enormous body is also like 1/3 of.
Oh, I agree with you. I
qualifies
totally
as a
agree with you.
himbo.
I will say
So-
there just aren't really buff people.
I know,
Yeah.
that's why himbos are more rare than you think. Everyone wants everyone to be a himbo, but
Well, I
that's
meant
not
in the Owl House,
In
but
the
you're
show,
not wrong.
so- Himbos are more rare than
No,
you
it's
think.
Adora's
Is there
perfect.
one lurking
Adora
in your
is
life?
buff and also is literally so stupid.
Shira, full himbo energy. Many himbos in that show.
It's true. There's a
Owl
lot.
House, no himbos. Okay.
Yeah, I
the
think
scale.
that's the spectrum
Yeah,
we got.
yeah, that's
Tira,
fair.
everyone's a himbo, and then Owl House, none.
Yeah, maybe the spy, or it will be a
Maybe
himbo.
they'll be himbo.
Maybe Amity's dad.
I don't think Amity's dad's gonna be a himbo.
What if
Why?
Amity's mom was pure
Everyone's
evil
so
and
mean
Amity's
except
dad was just like a pure himbo? What if you know?
I mean, the whole fandom thinks that like her dad is like probably okay, but her mom's like pure
Yeah, people
evil,
have
and I'm like,
assumed
I don't
that.
know.
We have no
They're
evidence yet.
both like equally whatever
Probably.
they are.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
they
I would
make all their
guess.
parent decisions together.
I would guess. Okay, Delaney, any final Eda thoughts or himbo thoughts?
Ida's great. She's hot. That's it.
Okay, yeah, that was also your intro thoughts.
Yeah,
Like-
they haven't changed.
I feel like we've talked a lot of stuff, but ultimately that is the message. Okay, Michelle, any final Eda thoughts?
I really like Eda. I want more Eda. I honestly do want the Eda Hootie backstory, so I hope we get it because I want to see that. I think Eda loves Hootie too. She just,
Oh, she does, but like I
She
personally live my
finds
life by
what
the
he
motto that
is.
less duty is best.
she understands that he's an abomination, but like he's an amazing house, and she made that happen. So I
Okay,
mean,
you're
more
right.
power to
He's a great house. You're not
He's
wrong.
a great house.
I guess he functions as a house. Okay,
He is
yeah.
a house. He's the house.
It's a great house. Yeah.
Well,
He can
we'll-
walk. Like, can your house do that? No.
No, very few.
Eda can't.
I only think of two that can, so that's impressive. Okay, but yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's called the Owl House. Maybe just the Howl's Moving Castle would be the other one.
That's true. The show's
yeah.
literally named after Hootie. What does that say? It says a
Yeah,
lot.
no, the Owl. Well,
Oh,
it doesn't
I'm
say.
done.
It's called the
I'm
Owl
really
House, so
done. It's
It's
presumably
called
we'll get the
Hootie's House,
backstory.
Really
basically.
done.
That's
It's
not what it's
Hootie's
called,
house.
but
That's
okay.
the show.
Let us know all your thoughts on Hootie. No, wait, Eda on in the comments section about what we talked about. But you know, Eda and Hootie, that is a big one we could see in the season 2. Eda King, a lot of interesting stuff. Let us know everything about it. Find and overlyanimated.com for all the places you can get in touch. And you could also consider supporting us via Patreon at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to our current patrons, especially our Patreon podcast, Beatrice, and thanks to our Patreon executive producers, Ryan, C. Beatrice, Hugh, Michael, Needle, and Phonician. Potentially the last Owl House podcast before season 2. Cross your fingers, because that would mean it would be soon, but we'll see.
More.
We'll see.
I had a thought.
Yes, final.
So if this stupid Eda Hootie episode happens, it's going to be Hootie, like, no one remembers how they met, and then Hootie's telling this really long, awful story about how they met, and that's the episode.
And it turns out it was, like, all, like fabricated. Like,
yes, no, that's it's totally made up.
It's what you want it to be true.
Yeah, at the end, Eda's like, none of that happened, Hootie.
That
feels like an Owl House
I'm glad that Michelle felt my energy, because my first thought was, like, he made it up.
And then you just throw up more mail to, like, break the silence. Eda reveals the truth that it was all fan fiction.
Yeah. Or, like, Eda comes in and she's like, what were y'all talking about? And she's like, none of that happened.
We'll be looking for We'll look for that in season 2. It's coming, that episode. We will be so blessed. And thanks for listening, guys. We will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.